Hello, I'm Liza Kushnir from For the Punks. In case you don't know, For the Punks is a resource and publication for fans and creators to connect, learn, and grow. Joining me here today is Elliott. How are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. So can you give us some background information about how you got started in music and what your journey has been like?
Yeah, I'll try and keep it concise.
No worries.
I'm from Buffalo, New York originally. Music is something that's kind of always been like it's kind of a central point of my life, I guess. My both my parents are musicians, and the rest of my I have three other siblings who are also musically inclined. Yeah, I mean, I basically just grew up like listening to music, playing music at church. Started playing the drums when I was about 12, and picked up bass and guitar and all that. Maybe like 17, 18. I started performing as Mags. I want to say in 2014. It was after sort of you know, I don't know how many bands I was in, between like maybe 17 and 2023, I want to say. I was just like playing in bands locally and, just trying to make anything work, I guess. And just kind of got to the point where I was like, you know what, like, let me just see if I can do this on my own. Also had been, recording for the majority of my early to mid teens, just like 8-track stuff or like, you know, just whatever I could get my hands on. I was just like that kind of kid where I was always just trying to do things related to music and recording and stuff. So yeah, 2014, I booked some studio time and I didn't have any songs written or anything like that. And I gave myself, I think like 2 months to write a couple songs. Um, you know, I find that if I don't like give myself like a deadline or like something to like uh work towards, it's hard for me to actually get shit done. So that was sort of the jumping off point for this project. And then after that, I ended up self-recording my EP Cellophane, and then my first album, the self-titled album, that came out in 2017. And now we're here. I moved to Los Angeles about 3 years ago in 2018. It's been a pretty wild transition, but at the same time, like, a lot of good things are happening, and I'm happy to still be here. So it's all good. It's all really good.
Yeah, totally. So you have your new album coming out, Say Things That Matter on August 13th. Can you talk a little bit about what the process was like creating it, writing it?
Yeah, it was honestly kind of wild. I mean, we started talking about the album, I want to say the end of 2019. We were like, okay, we should probably, when I say we, I just mean me and my manager for the most part, because it's
Yeah.
just me making the music. And then her and I discussed literally everything. So I was just like, okay, we're gonna do an album. It was kind of coming down to like logistics and budget and all that stuff. And I was like, you know what? Like, I've done all of my projects myself up to this point, so I think I should just do it myself. Um, and we had looked at like, booking studio time and, different potential engineers and producers to work with, and kind of just threw all that out once the pandemic started, of course. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty much just like, imagine last year making an album during all the stuff that was going on. You know what I mean? It was honestly, in a way, it was a blessing in disguise, because it facilitated the free time to actually like make it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But at the same time, it was hard to kind of stay focused creatively, just because there was so much kind of like heavy shit going on in the world, and like, we weren't sure what was going to happen to the music industry or the entertainment industry as a whole. Everything was kind of on hold. So, I'm making this album not really knowing like what's going to come of it, or if I'm going to be able to tour off of it or anything like that. So it's definitely, it felt a little like, you can't quite see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I said, it was actually a really positive experience, because it gave me a lot of time to really put myself into each song. And that's what I always try to do when I make songs, is put myself into them, and try and give them the most, attention. Every song has to have like the most attention I can give it, you know.
Yeah, and you can really feel that with every single that you've released so far that is going to be on the album. You can really feel like it's kind of like a separate journey in a sense with every
Yeah,
song.
absolutely.
What has it been like not being able to tour or play concerts?
You know, it's funny because this tour I'm going on at the end of the year is actually my first tour. Like,
Really?
yeah, I've done some like smaller like DIY stuff with other bands, and I've done some like weekend stuff with this project, but this is our first like real official tour. So I'm equal parts excited and, you know, a little nervous just because it's a big way to come back. But it's also like, you know, we've been building up to this point for a really long time, you know, so I do feel ready. I'm really excited to finally get out there and like get to, you know, meet all these people I've been interacting with on social media for such a long time, and, you know, play some bigger rooms, and just kind of the whole thing, you know. I'm ready for all of it, good and bad.
It's awesome. I wanted to ask, what do you feel was the biggest difference between recording this album and your self-titled album?
I think the biggest difference was that for this one I was actually trying to make an album versus like, I think the self-titled I was a lot more like just kind of focused on getting as many songs together as I could, you know what I mean? Like, I think after I put out the first EP, you know, I had been writing throughout that whole process, and then it just kind of got to the point where I was like, I think I have enough songs, you know, let me just go record them. So I kind of took the mentality that I've always taken with every band or project I've been in. It's like, okay, we're gonna go cut an EP. You know, we have this many songs, and that's it. You know,
Yeah.
but there weren't a lot of like themes. Wasn't really any like overarching kind of like story or concept or anything. It was very much just like, here's the songs. You know,
Mhm.
whereas this one, I think there's a lot more. It's a little more. It just goes a little more in depth, I guess, into sort of, you know, my own personal growth as an artist and as a person, and I wanted the project to kind of just something you can just kind of listen to all the way through,
Yeah.
and, you know, it does give you like a kind of range of like different, you know, all the songs I've released at this point are all pretty different. And there's, you know, other songs in the album that are even more different. But I wanted everything to kind of feel together, even though, you know, if you listen to them individually, you kind of get these different moods or different
Yeah.
vibes, whatever, you know. So I think with making this album, I wanted to give a lot of variety, but also have it feel like it's a part of one cohesive world.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to hear your album early, and I can totally agree with that. That listening it all the way through, like it tells such a story, and you're right, like the songs are so different, yet they somehow fit together like a little puzzle. So it's an amazing album.
Thank you.
And speaking of the songs on the album, I know your latest release, Beg, was written in a time when you were self-reflecting and going through changes. Can you talk a little bit about that?
You know, I think honestly, I think all the songs definitely kind of center around that. You know, like I said, the project as a whole is, you know, dealing with the sort of like evolution of you, you know. And it's not just me, it's like it's everyone. I think what I'm talking about on the album is not necessarily just sort of my own personal experience, it's everyone's experience. And, you know, I think I wanted to be able to say what I wanted to say in a way that anybody could relate to, you know, 'cause we all struggle with self-doubt, we all struggle with, you know, decision making and anxiety, and, you know, just all the different things that humans tend to experience, you know, even if we don't vocalize them, we think them, you know. So, you know, I think Beg particularly was a song that like was very like, the energy of it is kind of like frustrated, if you could say, you know what I mean? 'Cause it's like the verses are a little more like narrative, and it's talking about just like a very like specific uh you know, event, I guess. And then the choruses and everything like are kind of just, you're kind of just exclaiming, you're kind of just like releasing like the frustration, you know what I mean? And then even that bridge where everything kind of like explodes, like that's very much how it feels to kind of just like kind of hit that point in your head where you don't have any more like like thoughts. You're kind of just like trying to let it all out, you know. So I think it's very like visceral, and it definitely sort of encapsulates how I was feeling when I was writing that song. It's like, okay, like all these emotions and all of this energy, it's got to go somewhere, you know. Like just put it in that song.
Yeah, no, 100%. And same with like the music video, like it just starts out with you just like skateboarding, but then it builds up and it builds up. And
Yeah.
what was the process of filming that?
That was a really fun video because like we kind of had a plan, but we kind of didn't too, you know, especially like, I mean, we were just kind of driving around LA like at night. Just a lot of the shots where I'm performing were places that we just kind of pulled up to. It was me, my girlfriend Taylor, and then the director, Mitch. We were just kind of like pulling up to parking lots or like, you know, wherever. And he, you know, didn't have permits or anything like that. We were just like, let's see how much we can get done before you get kicked out, you know. And even the skating was very much kind of in that same realm, you know. Like we were on the bridge, like a little bit outside of downtown, and it's like there's fast cars whizzing by, and like it's a little dangerous, but you know, it's also like 2 o'clock in the morning most of the time here too, so it's like it's late. So it was a really like exhilarating experience, I'll say, you know what I mean. It's very different from some of the other visuals that we've made, you know, not as controlled, but at the same time it's like I was very happy with how it all came out. Stuff like that, it's like you can kind of see the vision, but you can't always like I can't always visualize it until I see it sometimes. You know,
Yeah.
I can understand like what we're trying to do, but then when I actually see it, you know, and what it looks like, it's like, yeah, that's incredible. So I was really happy with what Mitch was able to put together with what we got. And, you know, like I mentioned, my girlfriend, Taylor, she's the creative director. So a lot of like the styling, like, you know, this shirt, all of that was like, you know, we collaborated on that. So, yeah, that was like I said, it was honestly one of my favorite videos to make. And you know, even the skateboarding element and breaking the skateboards, that's very much just kind of like a part of who I am. I love
Yeah.
skateboarding as much as I love music. So um, I've been kind of waiting for a time to incorporate it into, you know, the whole thing.
Yeah, and I feel like it goes along with kind of like the message of the song, just turning into your inner feelings. I feel like when you skateboard or do something like that, like you essentially kind of zone out for a minute from the real world. So
Really, it's a great escape, honestly.
yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your music video for Smile because I feel like it's kind of the complete opposite of this video where there was a lot of acting. It was clearly like more kind of thought out beforehand. Can you talk about like, do you like doing which video would you say you would like to do more? Like ones that are a little bit more just in the moment or ones that are more like take time and are a process to figure out and put together?
I think it feels a little more natural to do things a little more like from the hip, you know what I mean? Like me personally, I like to kind of just make jazz and like try things until I find something that works. And, you know, luckily working with Mitch he's kind of the same way. You know, he's very much like, you know, we'll have a plan and then we'll kind of make things up within the plan, you know.
Yeah.
I think with Smile, like that was actually the first video that we all did together, and it was like you kind of nailed it. It was very very different from, you know, the bag video and anything past that. You know, we had multiple locations. You know, it was my first time even attempting to act. You
Really?
know, yeah, like
You did a good job.
I'd never done anything like that before. You know, so it was very like, and in one way it was a little uncomfortable, but once we kind of got into it, I'm like, okay, like I just need to not pay attention to anything except for what Mitch is telling me, like, you know, as the director. You know, I can't pay attention to what lighting's doing, can't pay attention to what the DP's doing, really. I just gotta like find a way to get centered, you know. And you know, like I said, I think it came out really well. I do remember the second day we were shooting, I had a terrible migraine.
Mhm.
By the time we were shooting the performance scenes, like, you know, that green room with the lights and everything,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
my head was about to explode.
Oh no.
And I was like, okay, I can't show the pain on my face, but like Man, I want to take a nap right now. I need to lay my head down for a bit. But yeah, that video was a lot of fun, and I really liked the styling of that video,
Yeah.
and it was way beyond anything that I could have ever dreamed up myself. I had an incredible team of people working with me on that one, and that was definitely like another challenge of that one was I think we shot that in September last year, so it was like pretty in the middle of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's protected. There's no vaccine even on the horizon yet, so it was a very like kind of a testy uh time, and we were all very careful and cautious, but at the same time it's like there's always that risk, of course,
Yeah.
so but yeah, I think like the concept for that one, like we basically wanted to put the video and the song out even before the album was done. We just wanted to start releasing stuff. So I hadn't even finished tracking the album yet when we
Mhm.
started working on that one. So we made the whole video to like a scratch track. Like I had like tracked all the drums and guitars and bass, and I did some like really basic vocals just so we could listen to something while we were making the video, and then I finished the song later. But yeah, it was like a really like it felt like it happened really fast,
Mhm.
and then I got the edit back and I was like, I can't believe that it looks like this. Like, this is insane.
Yeah.
It looks like a movie. Yeah.
And you would never tell that the song wasn't finished when you were recording.
No, yeah. I mean, I guess that's probably not a normal thing. Usually you'd start, having the visuals done after the music is completed. But we were on such a time crunch that we had to get going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to the album, what was your favorite song to record and write? Or are they different?
They're all different. I mean, I recorded all of them at the same time, except for one, and it's not out yet. But the song is called "Wait," and it's funny because I wouldn't say it was my favorite song to record, but it was the one that I took the most time on because I had recorded it at a studio February in 2020, and then the pandemic started basically in March. So I had that song, and I was like, okay, well this song is done, and I'm going to record all the other ones. And
Mhm.
then I finished tracking all the other ones, and then I kind of play them all together, and I listen to Wait. I'm like, this isn't quite it now. Like these other ones feel like they're a part of something, and this one feels a little on the outside. So I ended up retracking the guitars 2 different times, and I'm like, maybe that'll help. And then
Mhm.
I realized, oh, actually, it's the drums. I need to redo the drums. And I realized this about a week before I had to hand in the completed mastered album that I
Yeah.
needed to retrack the drums. So this is like late December, and I go back to that studio that I recorded everything at, and I retracked the drums, and probably did like 2 or 3 different mixes, got 2 different versions of the masters back before I was like, okay, this is it.
Mhm.
And I remember getting in my car to like check the master, and it just like melted my face off. I was like, yes. It was like such a satisfying feeling to finally get it right after literally a year of
Yeah.
feeling like it was wrong, you know? And then hearing the final version, I'm like, this was supposed to be like, this is the track that started the whole album making process.
Yeah.
Like I made the demo for this song, and then I sent it to my manager, and I was like, what do you think? And she's like, this song is gonna be big. And I'm like, okay. So that was a lot of extra pressure going into it, and then I wasn't gonna like put out something that I wasn't 110% happy with.
Yeah.
So it took a long time to get that song right, but like I said, like that first time hearing it in the car, it was all worth it at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of going off of that, are you like an artist who's like when you release an album, you're just like happy with your work, you're done? Or like in the future, do you look back on it and be like, oh, I could have done this differently. I wish I could have changed this.
um I'm I'm both actually. Because it's like once it's on Spotify or once it's out of my hands. You know what I mean? I'm not one of those people that's gonna like change something like long after it's been out and people have kind of heard it one way. It's like, oh, I wasn't quite happy with the mix. Like at least right now, like that may change down the road. But like right now, I'm just like, once it's out, it's out. At the same time, all that time before it comes out, I'm changing shit like constantly. I'm like, okay, like this sounds good to me, and I run with it, and then I change maybe something. Like sometimes if I make changes on different songs, I'll go back and make changes to something that I thought was done so that it matches. Um, so it kind of honestly just depends on the situation. Like I try not to be like over obsessive and like too much of a perfectionist. But the truth is that I am over obsessive and a perfectionist. So it's kind of it's
Yeah.
a bit of a duality there, but I kind of just embrace it at this point. I don't like try to, I'm never trying to let myself down at the end of the day. So I'm not gonna put something out that I'm not super stoked on.
Yeah.
And ultimately it's like I think my discography at this point definitely reflects that. Like I don't want to put out bad songs or filler songs or like songs that aren't like that I don't feel amazing about.
Yeah. 100%. What is something that you'd want the listeners to take away from your album after listening to it?
I think it's kind of an interesting question because I want people to kind of have their own definitions for everything. You know what I mean? Like I don't necessarily want to influence anybody's like perception of my work, because I have my own kind of personal connections to it, but everyone is allowed to have their own personal interpretation and connection, to the stuff that I'm doing. So I mean, like even like one of my older songs, Drugs,
Mhm.
people ask me what that song is about all the time. And I don't really have an answer for that because, for me, like that song feels kind of like it was like a gift. Like I didn't the lyrics aren't connected to anything personal in my life or anyone that I know or anything like that. It's kind of just like a song that was like gifted to
Yeah.
me, from like the universe or whatever. It kind of just like came out of me. And they're like, what is it about? And it's like, well, what do you think it's about? You know,
Yeah.
like that's all that matters. How does it make you feel? It's like that's kind of my answer. It's like there's obviously meanings behind most of my music, but at the same time, it's like it's up to you to kind of decide what it means to you.
Yeah.
And so I try not to get too deep into like not all the time like my kind of like personal like what this song is actually about or like what it actually means because then that's the only way you can ever hear it.
Yeah. And I feel like your version would still be like the music video, and like that's kind of like the biggest hint you'll give to what it
Sometimes,
means to you.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the music videos sometimes are about something totally different though.
Really?
Yeah, sometimes it's like uh I'll maybe even say for like choked out,
Hmm.
like that song in the video is kind of about like loving yourself, and trying to find ways of turning that negative self-doubt voice in your head into a positive one,
Yeah.
and not always listening to the negative things that you tell yourself that keep you in one place. But the song is about something totally different. You know what I mean? But I wanted to uh, give something a little more positive for the visual, because the song itself is, if you listen to it, it sounds kind of angsty and negative, and it's like I don't want to love you anymore. It's like
Mhm.
if you're saying that to like a person, like that kind of insinuates maybe the end of a relationship or like some kind of falling out or something like that. But if you kind of turn it on yourself
Yeah.
and you're saying like I don't want to love you anymore, it's like, okay, well, how can I change that? Like how can I stop that voice from dictating how I feel about myself you
Yeah.
know um so I think I generally am trying to spread positivity, and not like kind of live in this world of like everyone's against me and like I'm alone and da da da. It's like a lot of times like we all feel that way, but we all feel that way, so that
Yeah.
means I'm not alone.
And I think that's really important. I was talking to a couple of my friends, and we were discussing how a lot of music right now is really sad, and it's a hard time. So finding music that's positive, or even like a song like Smile, where maybe like the lyrics are a little dark, but the rhythm's like upbeat and fun.
Mhm.
It's a good vibe, and it's nice and something new.
Yeah, I always want to talk about like real life shit, but not in a way that makes you feel heavy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, you imagine like I just think about like the fans at the shows. You know what I mean? It's like if we're all gonna sing along together, we're gonna sing these songs, we're gonna be together in this kind of moment, and maybe it is a sad moment, but it's like we're together. So
Hmm.
it feels different, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Lastly, what advice would you have to people trying to get into music and become a musician?
I think my advice would just be to not worry about what anyone else is doing. You
Hmm.
know, I think it's really easy to get like over influenced sometimes, and you end up making stuff that is derivative, and that's not really what helps you to stand out. At this point in the industry, it's like, there's so many people that want to be artists or claim to be artists, or want to make money with their music. Like that's ultimately what it comes down to, is they want to be able to make money and support themselves and make it their job. And that's all good and well, but that shouldn't be the only reason that you're pursuing it.
Yeah.
um, at the end of the day, it's like, if you're trying to do music and you want music to be kind of, I like to think of it as my lifestyle, not so much my career.
Yeah.
It's my lifestyle, and it doesn't always feel like it pays off. you know
Yeah.
um, but there'll definitely be times where it does, whether it be sort of like in your own internal success, or monetarily, or just recognition or whatever. Like if you stick with it, it does pay off in some way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I guess, like I said, my overarching thing is just like, don't worry about the music industry. Don't worry about labels. Don't worry about, getting on Spotify playlists. Like that stuff all comes in time as you believe yourself more. You know what I mean? There's not really any formula to it. I couldn't really tell you how to do anything that I've done, you
Yeah.
know? So just continue to be yourself, do the music that makes you happy, and push yourself, you know, step outside your comfort zone, do stuff that makes you feel weird. uh that's my advice. It's not, there's no roadmap for any of this.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us today. We really appreciate it, and we're really excited for the new album.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys reaching out. This was a good time. Great questions too.
Thank you. Thank you.